Believe it. Okay.
You're listening to episode 400 of Geeks Under Grace podcast. My name is Cody Armour. I'm here with LJ Lowry.
Yo.
And unfortunately, Shelley, very last minute was unable to make it just due to some personal issues. But, she also says hello and goodbye and all those things. This week we're geeking out about the end of an era in a lot of different ways, really. Episode 400, that's a lot of episodes. Let's make sure we're actually on. We're doing this live for those listening afterwards. Nice, okay. It is... There we go. I'm trying to get in there.
Yep. It's us.
Comments.
We're here.
Cool. As I said, it's the end of an era. It's episode 400, and that also is kind of an end of a season in a way, even though we've never done seasons. We're going to be...
I think we'd be professionals at this, right?
Yeah. Well, this is our second attempt at this, of course, because it's not a Geeks Under Grace stream without a little bit of technical difficulties, at least on my part. Hey, Jordan Garner. How's it going? So, the podcast is going to be ending for a while. We will be picking it back up in January, which in internet years is in eternity. I know.
Yeah.
And that time will not be wasted. Hopefully, we've got a lot of plans going on through that, or at least, yeah. I'll let you start, LJ. LJ is probably having the most drastic change outside of this podcast. With this podcast taking the break, I'm going to call it that it is. So go for it, LJ.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure where we were going to get started with this or how to start with it, but so it's kind of been happening over the past, I feel like, year or so now. I've definitely stepped back from a lot of things. And at first, it was definitely a thing of where I stepped away from the board because I was definitely going through some church hurt. And not going to lie, I probably still do deal with some of that to some degree. But at the end of the day, I stepped back from that because I was like, you know what, I'm not, like, I didn't consider myself, like, fit. I'm like, this is not, like, the way I was feeling at the time, I'm like, I cannot lead. I just couldn't, like, and that was a self thing. Nobody told me, oh, you have to step down. But there's been a lot of things happening in my life, and definitely a lot of changes. And at the end of the day, stepping back from some of those things has helped me focus on me in a way that I never have before, because I was all in. Like, I had tunnel vision. I was Geeks Under Grace all the time, putting out a lot of content and things like that. And there were
just getting swole now.
There was areas of my life, honestly, that definitely, like, I definitely missed out on a lot of things, a lot of family things, and a lot of, it's like, oh, LJ's got something tonight, kind of a thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, I was helping reach people, and it was awesome. But for the first time in my life, this week, I can say, I feel like I'm in I'm not perfect balance per se, but it feels like 4 corners of my life are very imbalanced right now, and that's work. That's my finances, that's my health, and my social life. And really, my social life was one of the biggest things that suffered from it. I mean, obviously, I made friends with everybody, around here in Geeks Under Grace and just along the internet and stuff like that, but it's just like, I feel like I've been really getting to live life these past couple years, and it's been awesome. And like, I got a lot of friends that on the East Coast now, and so I'm hoping that's where life takes me one day, hopefully soon. And I've also moved on, and so there was a while where I did create content myself. I was streaming myself and things like that, and I was definitely suffering from some burnout too, and like, I did enjoy it, but I decided, you know what, I want to work on my art, and also was another thing. And then just I needed to work on me. And at the end of the day, like I still like I would not be here today without Geeks Under Grace. There's so many skills I picked up um, because of Geeks Under Grace, stuff that I just kind of picked up the ball and ran with and Googled and got good at because I did my research. And um, I was never even a published writer. The first ever thing was um, Geeks Under Grace was looking for video game writers, and I had already joined the community by then. And I literally sent our former editor in chief Casey. I literally sent her maybe a few paragraphs. Like I had written for like our yearbook staff and stuff like that back in high school, and like I had written things, but I just never like had something I always wanted to do. And then so eventually I joined that, and joined the gaming department, and that's really where I got into ministry. Um, yeah, so like at the end of the day, like without Geeks and Grace, I wouldn't be here with the podcast. I didn't really know how to edit. Like I'd never edited audio before. Like I mean, I've edited like back in the day. Like I did do like anyone remember AMVs from like YouTube?
Yeah.
I did that. So it's just all things I had probably done something like related to in the past, but I literally I was not experienced in any of it, and now I am thanks to Geeks and Grace. So I am still making content, and I'm not here to promote any of that, like because this is all about us and this is all about y'all, and so I'm still out there. Like if anybody wants to reach me or connect with me, like it was really cool connecting with people today, and it's just like man, like I'm grateful that that put me in such a position to where I could. Like I definitely made a space, and I know that I've definitely been able to be God's vessel.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's after 400 episodes and so many other things we've done. Like, yeah, it's crazy. It's wild.
It's so cool to watch. Just I've touted on this before, but like how far you came from like editing a podcast when we first started out, and then to where it is now. The sound quality is just so different and vastly like like I would love to improve upon something in my life the way that you like you took it and you were so on fire for it, so passionate about it, and you turned it into just like it was so cool to see you crush the sound quality the way you did. LJ's pretty quiet. Let's fix that.
Oh, okay.
I turn him.
I can also move the mic closer. So it's funny you mentioned that because we used to joke when COVID happened that our audio quality was sounding better than IGN's for a while because they all
for
moved,
a little bit. I was like, listen.
They all moved to Zoom during COVID.
Yeah. And to be clear, that was LJ's doing. I mean, it was all you, man.
I mean, he was definitely looking for little tips and tricks and things, and if you were to go and listen to the first few episodes now, it'd probably be cringy.
I'd like to point out, I think this is really funny for those listening afterwards, that we're talking about the sound quality of the podcast. And LJ was pretty quiet on the live stream, and that would be my doing.
That's funny. Yeah.
No, man, you have been such an integral part of Geeks Under Grace. Joe Morgan, you're in the chat here as well.
Yeah.
And, you too, man. Geeks Under Grace wouldn't be where it is today without you guys. And so I really appreciate that. We're going to keep going into that a little bit later. We're going to talk a little bit about where I'm going. I want to mention Shelley for a second, and then we're going to get into the actual podcast like we usually do.
Yeah.
At the end of it, I've got 3 questions I want to ask you, LJ. Me and you will answer, and then if you guys have any questions, we're going to answer those questions at the end of the podcast as well.
Yeah.
For me, as you're kind of stepping out to this new chapter, I am, for some reason, I'm diving even deeper in. It has been 10 years.
You've always wanted to, though. Yeah, it has been 10 years.
There's this conference. I'm going to it this year, too, if anyone wants to go and see me there, the Nerd Culture Ministry Summit. And like any kind of conference that you go to, it gets you fired up. And it's so cool. If you get the opportunity to go, I definitely say check it out, especially if you're wanting to create content in this space, this Christian geek space. And one of the revelations I had when we started Geeks Under Grace, there was no roadmap. And it's so funny because these guys are still saying, oh, there's no roadmap for this. We don't know what we're doing. But they've created a roadmap. There's a support group now of people that are kind of doing this full time. And so this is the first time that I'm really kind of announcing this. I don't know if I should be announcing it yet. We are in the process. It's been a very slow, dredging process of having me fundraise for full-time position here at Geeks Under Grace.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, very, very excited. Kind of scary. A lot of legal stuff has gotten in the way. We actually wanted to roll this out on my birthday, August 23rd. Now it's been over a month, and the legal stuff has just been so draining.
It had to happen at some point, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're really, really excited about this new direction, or at least I am, of going into this, doing it full time. It's something that I wanted to do when we started Geeks Under Grace, and I just had no idea how to do that. And so now we have people in the space that are like, well, I'm doing it. You can too. This is how I did it. Really, really amazing people at, I'm only gonna name a couple of them, and people are gonna be left out, and everyone's so amazing. But I know, Love Thy Nerd and then Lux Digital, Digital Church have been absolutely amazing. And there's a bunch of other people in that group that have been super supportive. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for that. I won't take too much more time hanging on it, but stoked. It's gonna be really cool. Big wishes for that. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it should be cool. And then so that's what I'll be doing. The podcast is ending, and it probably could be picked up in like 2 weeks if we could keep going. But instead of doing that, Jonathan Nichols, a name that I think you guys are going to hear a lot more in the next few months, is hopefully the plan is to pick this back up in January and start a podcast. The podcast back up, it will be episode 401 with him co-hosting with me, and we're really excited for that. But me and him are also going to be working on the next few months on working on the fundraising part of this and getting me to that full-time spot. So Jonathan Nichols is local. Really, really cool that that's happening, because they're just getting like a local group together has been really difficult for Geeks Under Grace, and yeah, excited for the future there. But anyways, Shelley is going to continue being on the board of directors. She is also stepping out of the podcast. I think just because it's been 10 years. We haven't been podcasting for 10 years, but just about. Geeks Under Grace has been around for 10 years last June. And so we've been doing this just a long time, and I think that she needs a break. And she has mentioned that when the podcast comes back, she may jump back in or just kind of be around when needed kind of situation.
Not to speak for her or anything too, but things like her work schedule and things like that, things in her own life have changed as well. Make that schedule, a little bit harder to maintain. So, but no, we wish she was here. There was a family emergency, again, to reiterate for anybody that was not here, but at the time when we started. But
yeah,
we really wish that she could.
It's crazy. I have these own like reservations about myself too with the full time thing. Is like, I think you can look at my free time and you go, well, you have free time? Why aren't you using that free time? You're using it to like hike. I've been doing a lot of hiking lately, or Renaissance fairs or whatever. And for all three of us, it's been like, it's been years. And for at least half that time, I think all three of us have put our heart and soul, all of our free time, into Geeks Under Grace at some point. And so you just kind of, at some point, you have to like stand back a little bit and take a look at life and go, oh, I've got to do, I can't do that forever with my free time. And so I think that's obviously where you are at, LJ. I kind of came to that conclusion a couple years ago, and I think Shelley has just slowly had that realization as well, as she slowly over the years kind of backed up from being fully dived in. You can only be at 100% for so long. And so it's just a new season, just a new new era for all of us. But Shelley will very much still be around, and is awesome, and I know she's going to miss this podcast as much as the rest of us. For those who don't know, like, it's been us three for a long time, and we don't really hang out. I mean, we live in three different states, sorry, and we don't really hang out outside of this podcast, but this podcast has been a way for us to geek out
Yeah.
about the things that we care about together for years. And so there's a strong bond there where, like, just on a personal level, we're all gonna really miss each other a lot, I think, because of that. Shelley and I, Joe says, Shelley and I both got married since the podcast began. A lot of life has happened. Yeah, for sure.
It really has.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of where I was going to say real quick, lastly, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of just, I feel like I'm at a point where instead of waiting for life to happen, I got to go get it now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
But we can get into the rest of it.
Yeah, we're going to do the podcast. We're going to go into what we've been geeking out about and the news like normal. We're only going to do like one news story for each thing just because we got a lot of ground to cover. And then, like I said, we'll answer questions at the end of the podcast if any of you guys have some. And if not, I've got a few questions just for us to kind of reminisce as well. And unfortunately, I didn't play anything new. I am playing Ghost of Tsushima for the rest of my life because that game is so long.
The timing of you playing it, though, is perfect.
It is. That's true. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
But, LJ, what have you been playing?
I have been playing, so I did get back into some Street Fighter 6 recently. They added Terry Bogart from King of Fighters. Got the hat right here. Anyway, but so they added Terry from King of Fighters, and I went back to it and tried that, and it felt good. I've been definitely struggling with some of these competitive games lately because I get so sick of which exploits and things like that have been in fighting game esports since like the early days anyway, and just like I don't know, I get tired of the like meta and exploit culture of like esports, and so I got back into it, and I'm just like, you know what? Let me just enjoy it. Let me not let that get to my head, and let me enjoy it. And so I've really been having a fun time getting back into that. Discord also had a fun little challenge. If you played the game for 15 minutes, I have this new little avatar border from the game. So that was definitely an incentive Discord had for me to get back in. But it's been fun. I know I definitely played a lot of Street Fighter 6 when it came out, and people watch me stream it on my own channels and stuff like that. And people know my passion for fighting games. So the fire has not died there yet. And then... so it's been fun to get back into. The other game that I haven't done this a lot, I feel like, lately, because usually I'm like, we were always getting review copies or like always hearing about a game from, some kind of trailer or social media post or some kind of representation. But I found a game the other day because I was browsing Steam. It's called Tiny Glade. And it is a really chill game. There's no strategy, combat, objectives, or anything. The idea is you have a little glade, a little space where you get to make your own little village, castle, or whatever. And so the idea is to just play with these tools to build things. And the more you play with it, new things you discover. So like if you put a couple of these certain types of windows together, you can make a bigger window with shutters. If you make like a house or whatever, and there's ways you can like shape the roofs and stuff like that. I would almost wonder if this would be a good tool to like maybe for like D&D or tabletop stuff, or maybe just for visuals in general, because you can take pictures, which everybody knows how much I love photo modes. And so I got to playing with it, and you can do things like, let's say you make like this hill, you may want to make like a house on the hilltop. If you make a path, which paths are like a big tool, if you make a path leading out from the house, it makes a door. And if you make that path going down a hill, it'll actually create stairs, like that go down that hill, so you can add lighting. There's like little turns and things. The time of day changes, and you get to watch your little glade light up and things like that. You get to build rivers and boats and things like that. It is such a lo-fi, cozy game. It is perfect. There's different seasons, and there's different other, like there's types, like different like other themes. So my hope would be like, I know there's like fall and winter, but like maybe Halloween comes. I know we're about to get to October. It would be neat if and this game came out on the 23rd, by the way, so it's fresh. It would be nice if we had maybe like a Halloween update, or like a Christmas update, things like that. It's on Steam right now. I hope it comes to consoles eventually, because like I was telling a friend that like he and his wife would totally love this game if they could play it on their Switch or something. like at the end of the day or whatever. I love it a lot. It reminds me of, in a way, there's a game called Dwarf Romantic that came out that I really loved. And so I was like, you know what, I want another low cozy game and that's definitely what this is, and I've really enjoyed it. It is super fun. I had to stop myself from playing. I started a build where I was building a castle, kind of like inspired by Castlevania and Dracula Castle, and so that has been really fun to see what the structures do and all the things I could do with it in that game. So it's been a lot of fun. So
Cool.
yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Sweet. We'll get into the gaming news then. Yeah, kind of a broader story here, but go for it.
Yeah, it works out. So we have the state of play that just happened, and so we do get to geek out on a few things. I'm going to start from the bottom of this article that I have here in our notes, which when y'all listen to the audio version, and I mean you've probably seen the state of play as well. There will be a link as always. This first piece of news I find really super funny. Sonic and Shadow Generations is getting Keanu Reeves DLC.
So cool.
Where there's a level where you play as Shadow, but it's like I think it's literally supposed to be Keanu Reeves, because he wakes up and he's like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "What's going on?" And he looks at his hands. And he's like, "Am I in another dimension?" So I think he's technically supposed to be Keanu Reeves himself having a dream.
That would be fun.
Yes. And so
he's
actually voicing the
himself.
Yeah, he's voicing Shadow, but he's technically himself. I mean, I was gonna get this game anyway, but this game is.
That sounds fun.
Or the update's coming out in December. I think the game comes out at the end of the month. We are definitely stacked for games in the next couple months, but that's super fun. Again, we've all expressed how excited we are for Keanu Reeves to play Shadow. It fits a lot.
For sure.
For TMNT fans like Jonathan and Shelley and myself, we did get some DLC that's already out. This other game called The Midnight Walk. It's a first-person claymation game.
Okay.
It's I don't know if they actually did some of that stuff, in actual claymation, or if that's just the way it's animated. But it looks sweet. It actually, that style got me. I'll talk about it in a little while, but I ended up watching Coraline because it very much reminded me of that Leica Studios style. But Midnight Walk looks really cool.
I don't remember the name of it, or if it even came out. All the level design were handmade dioramas.
Ooh, yeah.
You filmed, and then you played in the dioramas.
That sounds vaguely familiar, but yeah. But this game looks pretty sweet. That was honestly an indie highlight.
Yeah, it looks very.
Let's see. Pal World is coming to PS5.
Okay.
Or it's already on PS5 actually. It just released, I think, that day.
I wonder if they made enough money now that when Pokemon wins the lawsuit.
Yeah, I knew when you said
for now you're
about the lawsuit. Who knows? That is a
maybe they've made enough money that they're like, yeah, you can have it. Yeah. Here you go. Here's your $1 billion.
Yep. Monster Hunter Wilds got a release date, which looks cool. Okay, I'm gonna shout this out just because I feel like I'm maybe one of 20 people in the world that probably cares. But Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remaster is coming out. I've gushed about this game off and on since I can remember. It is a game that originally came out on PlayStation. Basically play, I guess the best way to describe it is this vampire guy who is a Soul Reaver, basically gets killed by his master because he evolved quicker than his master did. That's the one rule. You can't, according to the lore. So basically, after your master kills you, you wake up from the dead and basically go get to kill your brothers and your master. The story gets way wilder than that, but the Kickstarter for the prequel comic was number 5 on Kickstarter for comics, and then they just announced this remaster as well. So as a fan of this weird cult classic PlayStation game, I am super excited. It's coming to everything in December. So I just had to take this last episode to gush about that real quick. Hell Is Us looks really cool. That's another game that looks neat. Fantasian is a popular Square RPG that on Apple Arcade that's actually coming to consoles. More Dragon Age stuff. Alan Wake 2 gets a control theme DLC called The Lake House. Let's see. Oh yeah, that Horizon remaster is real. Remember when?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So they're actually remastering Horizon Zero Dawn, which
We knew it. We knew.
yeah, that's super awkward.
Some of these remasters, I don't know. I was looking like a side by side of this remaster to the original. I think
Yeah.
IGN posted it, and I had a moment where I thought they were reversed. I was like, wait, no, the remaster is the old one,
Yeah.
and then I realized that it wasn't, and I was like, oh. And I don't know why that happens, but
Yeah.
every once in a while, like just the way that they do lighting, it's almost more realistic. I wonder if it's because they're doing the remasters faster, maybe.
I don't know, but then also like they're updating character models and things like that. And so it's just really weird. I mean, I played the Last of Us one that they did Part 1 remaster, but even so, that was a significant jump. But it just feels weird because I mean that used to be a PS3 game anyway, but this is like just a generation above.
Real quick,
so
I want to say hey to Kimberly who said hi on our chats. We'll get some questions at the end of the podcast.
What's up? Yeah. Thanks for dropping by the way. Let's see. So Horizon Zero Dawn remaster is a thing.
And then the big announcement.
And and then Astrobot gets more DLC. Astrobot is an amazing game for those of you who have not played it. But I wanted to save this right here, Ghost of Yotai, because you have been playing Ghost of Tsushima, which the timing could not
crazy,
have been.
isn't it?
Yeah, impeccable timing.
It looks so good.
Yeah, it looks good. It's set 300 years after Ghost of Tsushima.
Mm-hmm.
And you play as a whole new character. It's a whole new location.
I'm wondering how much the technology will change 300 years later.
That's a good point. Especially my closest comparison is like seeing stuff like in Red Dead, even like the first Red Dead game, how it's like you go to that one area of the map and it's like, oh, they're driving cars.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know what that's going to do, with the technology and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
My closest comparison would be Rise of the Ronin. That game had a weird technology like merge gap thing.
Okay.
Not even gap, but it's because like the Western civilization, it was almost like Shogun, and it weirdly reminded me of Shogun because it's Western influence coming into the world, and there's guns and there's like guns and things like that. In that game, and there's like this Western influence, so it's like I wonder what this is going to be like. And nothing in this trailer like really spoils anything like in Ghost of Tsushima. So like, because it's so many years after. Yeah, so I'm excited for it. I know there's definitely those people out there that are upset because it's like, oh, you play as a woman now and all this stuff, and it's just like, whatever, grow up.
It's crazy that we live in a world that
kind of society.
Yeah.
That's the biggest news. Again, like it'll be fresh in your mind too. I think like Ghost of Tsushima is like the meme where like when people are like, oh, if you could replay a game, if you could forget a game and replay it, like what would that be? Ghost of Tsushima is one of those ones that it's like, when I would replay if it was wiped from my memory, I would want to replay it.
I do feel like I'm replaying it over and over sometimes. It is getting repetitive.
It does. I'm gonna try to platinum it. I re-downloaded it. Okay, yeah, it is. There's so much to do, but at the end of the day,
I unlocked, and I gotta say this so I don't give anything away. Yeah. I unlocked some poison, and that's all I'll say on it. And it's so fun. And I won't say any more than that.
That's a big part of. That's funny because that's a big part of the game, and it's like that's kind of a no-no.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. That's
yeah. I'm gonna leave it at that. The poison in the game is fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the state of play. Like we said earlier, we're gonna keep it to one news piece per category. So
yeah, and we're going to movies. I did not actually see a movie this week. I was hoping to, didn't get around to it. So
just so that way we balance it out. Oh yeah, so I try to. I know there are definitely where we haven't. Sometimes all of us don't end up watching anything, but I watched Coraline this past week because I'm starting my fall spooky watch thing. I watched Coco last week, and then Coraline was this past week. I watched it because of that video game that I mentioned earlier, and I had not seen that probably since since it came out almost. And that show or that movie is really good. It's I forget the name of the guy, but it's one of those things where it's like from the producer of Nightmare Before Christmas, and then you have to be like, well, it's not Tim Burton. Um, Selleck, I think his name is. But yeah, so it's from the producer of Nightmare Before Christmas, the guy that didn't get enough credit for Nightmare Before Christmas, basically. Um, Henry Selleck, I think it is. But Leica Studios made it. Leica Studios movies are so good. It's almost video gamey, which I really like. She enters this world that's definitely different, and she kind of has to go back and change things. Coraline it's really good, well animated. I mean, they definitely have like music and things like that. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. The soundtrack is really good. It's a good story, and I think it's actually based off a book by Neil Gaiman. And so it's really interesting because the message is kind of about like children appreciating Tim Burton. It's really kind of like children appreciating like their parents and things like that, and there's definitely like a storybook message there at the end of the day. So it's good. I like it. It's definitely like on a lot of people's lists, and so that's definitely on mine now. I bought it because it was not on a streaming service. So if anybody's gonna try and go watch it, it's not on. It's like
That's
you literally
crazy.
have to like.
It's weird that it's not anywhere.
Yeah, so you literally have to go rent it. So
to bring that full circle, this is where my ADHD brain went.
Go for it.
The Midnight Walk is claymation. Claymation made me think of Tim Burton. You talked about Coraline, which is Tim Burton. I had mentioned a game that looks like it's built out of dioramas.
Yeah.
That is Fantasia Neo Dimension, which was announced at State of Play.
Wait, that was the game? Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's hilarious because then that's like the Octopath games and stuff like that too. In a weird way, that's what Tiny Glade is too. It's a game
kind of a diorama feel.
Yeah. So it's just
if I'm right, I think he actually built these set pieces for this game, and then like
for Fantasia
took digital like renderings of them. I could be wrong on that. I believe that's correct. At the very least, it has the aesthetic of like there's a spot here where there's like a giant boulder, and it looks like it's literally just a rock that someone placed and they put.
Oh, that's cool. Almost tabletop-y in like a way. Huh.
Yeah. Fantasia Neo Dimension is got some really cool set looks. The characters look CGI, but the sets often look like they were just built out of something. That's
cool. That reminds me of like Borderlands and Tiny Tina, when basically the overworld map was like a tabletop like set.
Super cool.
Yeah. No, but yeah, been watching Coraline, and all those are handmade. All the sets.
Cody Cullum, I want to say hi to you as well. He's in our chat as well. Sure, that's super disorienting for those listening to the podcast afterwards, but you know what's going on.
Yeah, we told y'all this was gonna be live.
Yeah, Cody, we call him CC, or start calling him CC, because there's two of us now in the tech booth.
That's awesome.
How's it going, man?
That's cool.
We're just kind of going through the news like we normally do for a podcast, and then at the end we'll take questions before we sign off.
Yeah. We can move on to movie news.
Going into the movie news, yeah. A kind of a big deal, and I was really happy that we had a big deal to sign off as like the last piece of movie news for a while. But this is pretty huge, and that is DC and Marvel no longer have the trademark for the word superhero.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Okay, yeah, I was like, for those who don't know, nobody else was able to use the word superhero. So if you notice, if you watch like The Boys, which I don't know if I should necessarily recommend to anybody, but The Boys, they call them soups.
Or one of them, they called them capes and something else, or like capes. There's all this. Yeah, I don't know what that's from, but
yeah, so they never use the word superhero, and that's because DC and Marvel both collectively own the word superhero, and no one else could. So all the different comic books.
Wild.
Yeah, I think you could use heroes. I think you could call them heroes, but you couldn't use the word superhero until now. And I think that's going to be really big in the comic book industry, that people can be superheroes again.
Huh.
I know it seems like a small thing, but I bet it'll be a really big deal.
I mean,
I'm
that-
sure
that-
Invincible or the boys will make a joke of it somehow.
But that's like Mickey going into like public domain or something. It's just like, oh, I didn't know that was a
know.
thing. You know, like
Yeah. The Mickey one, I didn't even know was possible. Like, that's crazy
Yeah.
that they were able
but
to.
it's like that kind of thing where it's like you're like, oh, I didn't realize they had
Yeah.
that, or that was even a property, or that was something that could even be let go.
Mm-hmm. To be clear, I'm not sure if it is Mickey. I think it's Steamboat Willie specifically.
It
which
is Steamboat Willie's Mickey
Yeah.
specific.
Mickey Mouse is like prototype, basically.
Yeah.
That looks just like Mickey Mouse and can now be used publicly.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
So it may seem like a small piece of news, but it's
The
huge
first
for the
plus
comic book
ultra
industry,
hero.
and keeps there was kind of this exclusivity, right? Of like, if it wasn't Marvel or DC, it wasn't like a real comic book.
It wasn't a real superhero or something.
Yeah, it's not a real, and so it will make a difference. Just the phrasing, it makes it a lot less exclusive to these two companies.
That's so weird. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's like
That'd be
if
like
other people could make NFL games, it would be huge.
Well, or like if the word zombie was trademarked.
Yeah, I think it was for a while.
That would make sense, because it's like, oh, that's why like Zeds.
Either it was trademarked, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a while. I know at the very least, The Walking Dead refused to use the word zombie. But I don't know if it was trademarked or because they just want
or
to be different.
walkers. They wanted to be. I think.
Yeah.
But
But they weren't allowed to like even use zombie on set, if I'm correct.
that's wild.
Yeah. And I feel like it's trademarked because they don't call them zombies in Last of Us either.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, I think with zombies, the difference is that I think they're just trying to be different.
Joe's gonna be the first plus ultra hero.
Whereas superhero is not a word I figured was trademarked, so that's kind of wild.
Yeah, for sure. And then from there, we'll get into TV. I've been watching The Flash and Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow, and I just want to do a callback for those who don't know.
Yeah, that probably.
I
triggered
watched those
Joe in the
shows
chat there.
for years.
A long time.
And every podcast, they'd be like, "What are you watching, Cody?" And I would be like, the Flaro universe. Or I'd have a news story for the Flaro universe every week.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it was a thing.
Yeah, I was into it.
I saw an interview actually where Stephen Amell, because he's been talking about heels and wrestling and stuff.
Yes.
He was kind of bitter towards the whole like actual DC universe movies for a while, because it's like, hey, like we've been here in the TV world working our butts off, so like what, like we need that love too, like.
Yeah, I don't remember the joke in Peacemaker, but apparently Peacemaker makes a joke about it, and
He does.
A little offended by it.
Yeah. That was in the interview thing.
Yeah,
That's funny.
No, what I've actually been watching has been the Rings of Power.
Nice.
Again, I stand by it. If you got through season 1, watch season 2, because season 2 is worth it. So good. Season 2's.
I'm sorry, Joe said I haven't been on the podcast in years, and I stopped to hear about Flaro.
Yes, you do.
Ooh, that's hilarious. Anyway, I'm sorry.
I would get such eye rolls. But Rings of Power is amazing. And then another one, don't sleep on the Penguin. Penguin
I need to watch the Penguin still.
It's really good.
Anime pilled lately.
I don't understand. Like, it shouldn't be as good as it is. It's a great gangster show, but it's about the Penguin from like DC's Gotham, Batman. Like, it doesn't make sense that it is as good as it is. I'm so heavily invested. I will say second episode did not live up to first episode hype, but I am really, really loving this show. I think this is such a cool way to do DC stuff. I think The Dark Knight and all that stuff with Christian Bale that tried to do this like realistic approach, but this feels more organically real in this universe than that ever did.
I guess they kind of walked a line in some ways, I think, with the Nolan universe.
Yeah, there was like a bit of fantasticalness about it. Maybe that's, I don't know, like this Batman is in his garage tinkering with his car, and it's literally just a sports car that he's put some metal plates on.
Yeah.
And like it really looks like he souped it up himself, and
Mhm.
I don't know, there's just a rawness to this universe that I'm really enjoying. And Colin Farrell, can't believe it's Colin Farrell under that suit.
Yeah.
But he's really brought the Penguin to life in a way that feels. I don't feel like I'm watching a superhero show. I feel like I'm watching something from The Sopranos or something.
That's cool. That means they achieved their goal.
Yeah, it's good. And it is DC. It's not the Flaro universe, but it is DC.
That's awesome.
The Penguin would destroy the Arrow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes, and I hope that he becomes, because right now you're watching kind of the come up of the Penguin.
Okay, yeah.
I do hope that we get to see him kind of come into power a little bit, and I think we will. It has this kind of Breaking Bad vibe of like kind of House of Cards ish, where everything's gonna come crumbling down at some point. I'm very curious to see what happens next.
Yeah, I like that. I those are great. I think those are like reasons for what that show should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, loving it, loving it, loving it.
That's awesome.
What have you been watching, LJ?
Honestly, it's not really changed for like the past 3 weeks. I've been watching more Attack on Titan.
Nice.
I
Andrew
am.
asked what show I'm talking about. I was talking about the Penguin.
Yo, Andrew, what's up? Thanks for dropping by. Yeah, so just talking about the Penguin. I have been watching Attack on Titan, and it is so good. I think I'm like right at the end of season 3, and that show expands some things way more than I thought it would. Without saying anything else, I know like I'm way behind on like a lot of people have already seen this stuff, but either way, I'm still gonna stick to my guns and nuts well stuff. So it's good. It's heavy, and there's just a lot. There's a lot you learn as you go to the end of season 3, and I literally have no idea what they can do for season 4. It's just there's a lot of big revelations in that they kind of hint at and mention in the like in the first season, and so yeah, a lot of that gets answered. So I'm excited for what comes next. And again, Attack on Titan and probably Penguin, both very mature shows.
Oh yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Should be said.
Stop all you can.
Yeah, very mature. Attack on Titan gets rough. So does Penguin.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
Penguin is very gory, rated MA stuff. But
Yeah.
we'll get into the TV news then. Another HBO Max. HBO's really been kicking it lately. We have a Last of Us trailer. I thought the show was coming out in like early November. It doesn't have a release date yet. It's sometime in 2025. Yeah, but the show, I love season 1. I'm ready for season 2. You get specifically shot for shots from the video game in this trailer that look amazing. I don't know. They're just doing the adaptation right, I feel like.
It looks good, yeah.
I think it goes back to, Joe, we mention this all the time. Me and you would debate whether or not, Joe Morgan's been in the chat and used to be in the podcast. I don't know, for those that are like jumping in at least, that I said I would always want something that was video game related that would be kind of in addition to the game, so that you could experience the game and then you weren't experiencing the same thing through media, because in my mind you can't express what you can in a video game through a TV or movie medium. And I think Joe has always said, no, I would rather it be a one-to-one, because then I can experience with people the experience that I had with other people who wouldn't play a video game. And I believe The Last of Us as a TV show does exactly what Joe wants in that situation of having a one-to-one experience of the video game in a way that is massively done so that you can share that experience with others.
Yeah, I agree, because like I got my stepdad into The Last of Us, and my mom even watched it, and he really he enjoyed it. And I did that in the video game. Basically, I was able to point to parts in that show and be like, oh yeah, and literally be able to match that and kind of tell him. And then he'd ask me maybe some questions that like they didn't necessarily go into in the show, or just little things, and I'd be like, oh, that's because of this kind of thing. I mean, the show definitely takes liberties in areas that I don't think hurt the game, at least as in the first season, but season 2 looks awesome.
Yeah, looks wonderful.
Yeah, they definitely. Yeah, they nailed season 1 big time.
All right, LJ, I'm going to ask a few questions before we end the podcast. Again, you
Whoa,
guys can
right
ask
into
your
it.
own questions.
That
Huh?
was TV news, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was our TV news.
I was like, whoa, right into it.
Yeah, I'm going through it.
Ugh.
Like I said, you guys can
There
ask
we
your
go.
questions. We will answer them. I didn't write those questions down anywhere except for in that chat
In the chat.
that we were having. So give me 1 second.
Oh,
Um,
getting to the hard hitting stuff now.
yes. Yeah, like I said, you guys can ask any questions you want. We'll try to answer the best of our ability. It can be about the future of Geeks of Grace, or it can just be like questions you want to ask us randomly. What our favorite color is? It's definitely not purple.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Oh, geez.
So my first question, LJ, is pretty big. What was your favorite memory here on the podcast?
Oh,
I have
gosh.
such a stupid one that Shelley, I really wish was here for. But go ahead.
Oh.
First.
Like the podcast specifically?
Yeah, podcast specifically.
I can't even really necessarily.
I hope
Oh,
we don't have the same one. I mean, the other ones I'm okay to have the same one. I hope we have different ones for this.
I
But we
don't.
could.
It's definitely podcast adjacent.
Okay.
But it's definitely something I have shared with people who didn't watch, like who really. So there was the time when this was the pledge. Yeah, because I guess we did it during the live podcast segments, right? So we were doing the pledge drives,
Mhm.
and there was that time where we all ate hot stuff.
Yeah.
And so there was the time when Jacob
hot
poured.
stuff on this podcast.
Yeah, we have. So Jacob, when he, oh my gosh, and that's like, oh my gosh, it's so terrible because we like damaged ourselves like with like spicy stuff. It's like we don't know what else to do. But and then Joe was like, oh yeah, like I'm not doing this because he just did something on his own channel, I think. But just all of us trying to do so, like, and I was on a laptop. I was on an old laptop with I think a mic that you guys had just bought me or something. And that was, speaking of quality, like, yeah, I was on my old laptop still. But I think you had something you were doing with the habaneros and like hot sauce and some kind of like
I
salsa.
was dipping it in a ghost chili sauce because I said I eat ghost
yes,
chilies. I couldn't find ghost chilies anywhere.
And then so Jacob was counting them based on, I forgot what it was, maybe donations or something. He was just like this 1, 2, and then like after he ate them, homie literally got up off his chair and we're like, oh yeah, he's gone, and comes back with a whole like gallon of milk and just starts. Oh my gosh, that was. Oh, that was one I've definitely showed, like especially when like hot and that kind of thing was becoming popular.
Yeah.
After that, I'd be at work and I'd be like, oh hey, you guys want to see this video? I definitely, we definitely did that. Like that was a video I showed a lot of people who really didn't follow my work. And I'm like, hey, like here's something silly we did. There's a lot of people. There's some people like family members that'll be like, hey, remember that video you showed me? And I'll be like, yeah. So it's just
awesome.
it's definitely adjacent, I guess, because it's
Yeah, it works.
very Twitch focused. But that was when you asked me that question, that was what popped into my head.
Mine is so stupid. There is a Hyrule Warriors game that I've never played with a robot that looks like an egg.
Oh,
And for like
yes,
a literal like 12 minutes.
Shelley would be like, oh yeah,
LJ and I went off on egg puns. I'm surprised she didn't just shut the...
No, dude, there's been a couple
shut-
times there's been a couple times where we've had to stop ourselves because we keep going off. Like, oh my gosh,
It was
that
12 minutes of plays on words about eggs in this game. And Shelley's trying to have like a heartfelt, strong opinion about this video game that she's trying to get out to the world.
Age of
And
Calamity.
It was
the
just
Breath of the Wild.
completely destroyed.
We were unhinged. That like for whatever reason we were unhinged. Like we just kept going.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my gosh.
There were so
But
many.
you
egg
know what?
puns.
You're
It was
right.
so
That
stupid.
is. That has to be like number one right there. Gosh, like that. Oh jeez.
It was bad.
Yeah. We had to hold. Ever since then we've tried to hold back as much as possible. Like we really have.
Yeah,
We've had to retake.
I would have
We've had to-
understood if she would have just like left the message. We do this through video, so she would have just like gotten off Discord. I would be like, I get it.
we've had to stop it and redo because Cody and I would be going off with the puns on some
Yes.
occasion.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Shelley gets some good puns
yeah.
too. Don't
She,
hurt.
yeah, no,
Don't let her
she
fool
comes
you.
out. She comes at him. She comes out with them too, for sure.
Yeah, she'll pretend she didn't say him. She'll say him real fast. She won't make a look or
Like,
anything. She'll just.
yeah. She's like, yeah, and
We
just
caught
like that'll
that.
be it.
We
Like,
heard you.
yeah, we.
Uh,
Oh yeah,
the second question,
yeah.
I think we'll both probably agree on. But what was our best prediction? I
Oh,
think the best prediction.
streaming services.
Yeah, packaged streaming services. We nailed way
Yeah,
before it happened. I think Hulu had
yeah.
just come out.
Yeah, so like so it was when I think all these companies were talking about like starting their own streaming services, because we had like Disney, I think, just had started it or something, and then Paramount's like, hey, we're gonna do one too. HBO's like, hey, we're gonna do one too, and then we're like, okay, pretty soon we're going to end up paying as much for streaming services as we did for cable, and
Mhm.
that is exactly what I do. Like, no joke,
Yeah, it literally happened.
no joke. And then now all these streaming services are coming out with live channel sections. Like
Mhm.
Amazon has one, Paramount has one, Peacock has one. So it's like, okay, like is this? Well, we were spot on with that, 100%.
Yeah, I can't think of a better prediction. That one was like just. We've done quite a few predictions over
Yeah,
the
like there's
podcast.
definitely stuff we've like. It feels like we've willed into existence, like because
Yeah,
like.
you capture
um,
that was the freshest one. I think was I was like Zelda needs a Pokemon feature where you catch things, and
yeah,
literally the next day they announced Zelda catching things with her wand or
yeah.
whatever. I was like, that's crazy.
And I know I wasn't the only one, but I was like, Keanu Reeves needs to play Shadow, and then
Yeah,
that
that
happened.
happened
Those are like two recent ones where I'm like, yes.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's wild. That's we couldn't have been more right on that
hmm
on the cable thing.
And then the last question from me, and it looks like it might be the last question in general. Again, feel free to ask your questions if you have them. Um, but the last one is just uh, how have you grown from your time here on the podcast? I think that's going to be a hard one to answer, but there's just so
Mm.
much.
Yeah.
You
Huh.
have anything off? You want me to go first?
Yeah, no, you go first. Go first. I'm still thinking on this. There's so much.
Yeah, I think just from a quality level, I think the podcast has improved over the years, and this just happens through practice, right? We've gotten better at you've gotten better at the editing, and I've gotten better at speaking relatively. I still hate hearing myself talk.
Same, same.
But it is from that standpoint, I think that I've grown, and like I'm way more comfortable in front of a camera, in front of a microphone than I ever have
Mhm.
been. But I've also really weirdly, like, I've always kind of had this imposter syndrome about geekery, which is a strange thing because I was like, yeah, I'm pretty geeky, with my family and stuff, like comparing myself to my family. But then you get kind of into the Geeks Under Grace crew. There's like 60 of us, and sometimes I'm like, am I a geek? Like the level of gaming that LG does, or the movie knowledge that Shelley has. I go, oh, maybe I'm not playing nearly as many games. And it's kind of this thing of like, I want to. And so I think the podcast has helped keep me in that world in a lot of ways. I think that for a lot of it, I probably would have kind of lost that passion. But the podcast and Geeks and Grace as a whole has definitely just like kept me in that and given like purpose through that, which I think is really cool. That we're able to like find purpose through this geekery that we geek out about in our hobbies and things. That's all been really, really neat. But I think I've grown as I've become geekier. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I like to think it's a good thing because of the podcast.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
one last thing too, not to steal all of them from you, LJ, but
No, go for it. Go for it.
and yeah, you just echo anything that you agree with. But I think the other thing too would be I think I've realized the importance of community more through Geeks Under Grace than I have through any other outlet in my life, and that even includes church, which is crazy. I think that I sought out community in my church because of how important community was digitally for me. And so I volunteer at church because of that. But that volunteering comes heavily from volunteering here at Geeks Under Grace, and seeing the value in that. And I was like, oh, I could do that, in my backyard. I don't have to go anywhere to do that. And so I think that Geeks Under Grace has really shown me the value of community in a way that other places have not in my life. So
Yeah.
go for it, LJ.
Definitely confidence. I guess like a self-confidence in like just speaking and being on, like you said, on camera. And then especially like moving to the South, that definitely was initially like, I don't know. I've always definitely been just, keep to myself kind of person. Not really that. I mean, I'm the type of person where it's like, oh, you mentioned something I know a lot about. Yes, I'm gonna probably talk your head off, but I can't like. I'm very introverted. I guess I was trying to think of the word. I do consider myself a very introverted person. But because of things like Geeks Under Grace, I've been able to step out of my comfort zone and be able to do things on camera and to be able to participate in things that I otherwise would not. And developing the particular set of skills that I have through Geeks Under Grace, especially like when I was at the church and stuff like that, and even today in a way, people recognize those skills. Like I volunteered at church on Sundays, moderating our online service because one of our directors was like, "Oh, like you do that Twitch thing, don't you? Like you can, kind of a thing." So I did that for a really long time because of this, and yeah, so, definitely the self-confidence thing and being able to carry myself a certain way is like number one. That's the big one for me.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there aren't any questions on the board here, and there's a few people watching still. So I'll give you guys a few more minutes if you want to ask anything. But while you do that, I think we'll finish up. I just want to say thank you again to everyone who's watched and listened through the years. 400 episodes is insane. It's like 6 or 7 years of content, I think. Which is just wild. Some of you have been here since the beginning. Some of you are just now getting here, and it's over for a little while. It will be back, but the podcast, we very much do it for all of you, and I know that seems kind of weird, possibly, just because the viewership and the listenership hasn't always been like massive.
This podcast has brought people to our ministry, and want people volunteering and being part of our community. So it's like our
closer to 8 years. There you go.
Yeah, so October. I think you guys started in October of some year at some point. I think maybe like 2016 or something like that.
Okay.
And so it's really weird that we are coming up on
ending in October. Yeah.
Around that same time. Yeah. We didn't mention. I don't know if we've mentioned it, but it's International Podcast Day as well.
Oh, I totally forgot that. It's International Podcast Day. It's so crazy.
We did not
do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. To finish your thought there, although listenership has never been like super crazy for the podcast,
no, it is not.
There have been multiple people who have said that it's impacted them, whether it's inspired them to do their own thing, or it's just been something that they could look forward to every week. And so, if one person says that, it's enough to keep doing this in some capacity. And LJ, you're doing other content, but you're still making content that's going to impact lives, and I think that is so much because of listeners saying, this helped me in some way. And so we're just grateful to be conduits of that. I don't think that, we're anything special by any means. We just had a passion and just got to it and just started just being consistent with it. And so to see that God has used that in any capacity, I'm just really blessed and fortunate to have gotten to experience that and be a part of that. So thank you guys so much. LJ, you want to sign off?
Dang.
Anyway, yeah, your last word, not sign off, but
No, yeah. So, yeah. So just seeing like David here, he said podcast has got me through many a work. I'm sure it has for a lot of people. And it's like again, like to reiterate what I said in the beginning, Geeks Under Grace has given me the tools, regardless of like what our stats were. At the end of the day, like those numbers, like we fight all these social media algorithms like every day because they want to show certain things that we may not necessarily get to show them. Like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and all this stuff has their own algorithm. But at the end of the day, the algorithm of the Holy Spirit and God is what has gotten us through. Like these social media algorithms have been nothing that has been able for Geeks Under Grace and for this ministry and for the kingdom. We have lived through an era where, at the time, our mission statement has changed. It was to bridge the gap between Christ and pop culture. And pop culture has kind of almost moved its own way into everywhere else these days. We're the people that somebody's like, oh, there's a new superhero movie. Who is that? Tell me about this. Tell me what's going to happen with this. There's a new video game adaptation. Like The Last of Us or like Sonic or whatever. And we're the people that these people come to now, like even at church or whatever, things like that. Like somebody's going to want to know about this thing that their kid is playing or their kid is doing. And we get to be the people that that they come to. So it's just really like it transcends social media and everything that it transcends content itself, because at the end of the day, Geeks Under Grace has shown me just to be present. And I get to be present, and be there for whoever needs me or whoever kind of thing. And I just like being a light. It doesn't even matter the useless information. I think at the end of the day, we're a beacon for sure, and I'm glad I have been able to do that. And it's gotten me to go elsewhere and help build other communities, and taking my knowledge and my tools and using them ultimately for the kingdom.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We got one more from Robert here too. I know I wasn't part of the podcast team, but it's still weird hearing it's going away, even if temporarily. Yeah. It's pretty wild for it to be stopping for any sort of moment, but
yeah. Anybody else in chat? I mean, doesn't anything else or sticks out to you? Like, I know, yeah, we definitely got there's
yeah, we'd love to hear your guys' stories too. That would be really cool. I wanted to say too, Shelley feels the same way as we do. Bust through it all. The timing of life just kind of is rough sometimes. But I did want to shout her out. The Shellshock24, I believe on Twitter, or X.com is the best way to get a hold of her. LJ,
or
where
even
can they find
Discord.
You at? Or Discord, yeah.
Discord would be, I think, a good place to. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram under LJ the Paladin, and also, like, please reach out to me on Discord. Reach out to me on whatever form you like, and I'm always here to chat or whatever, to geek out with any of you. Just because I may not be present in a lot of our communities and stuff, like I'm around, so it's just if any I want it to be an open door for people to message me for any reason whatsoever. If there's anything I can do, or if there's any word of, or if anybody just needs somebody to talk to, I'm here, I'm around. So that's it.
And we'll leave this live stream going for a few more minutes, but we're going to sign off the podcast. You can find me at Cody Armour on Instagram. Keep praying, keep gaming. I said that backwards. Of course I would. Keep gaming, keep praying, and God bless. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Geeks Under Grace podcast. We love hearing from you, so feel free to ask us questions or just comment on the show by using the hashtag GUGcast on Twitter, or by joining the GUGcast questions channel in the Geeks Under Grace Discord. If you like this episode, consider leaving a review or rating of our show on your favorite podcast app. If you want even more Geeks Under Grace, you can always go to geeksundergrace.com. We love you all so much, so thank you for listening.